Welcome back to the Wakefield Doctrine. We're coming in on a strong point because Zoe just affirmed my something or other. So we're the Wakefield Doctrine, the theory of Clarke, Scotts, and Rogers, and we are in the concluding part one of the three-part interview with the current author of the Wakefield Doctrine. So this has been fun. This has been fun.
I don't know how long I've known you now, Clarke, but it seems like since I started kind of buying into your doctrine a bit, and I think I buy into it quite a bit, actually. You know the places where I don't, actually, but for the most part, I think I buy into most of it.
Okay.
And one of the things I think I've been after you about is I can't seem to figure out how to use it more functionally. So if you had, a total novice of the doctrine in front of you, and you had to explain it in terms of how they could actually use this in their regular life, like what would you tell them about that?
That actually, I'll beg off with a work in progress excuse on that. In the long-term uses, the short-term use is. I'm very confident in it. Lets you recognize the Clarke, Scotts, and Rogers in your world, and the reason that's useful is that for many people, and meaning Clarks, we will, in conflict situations, we will default to blaming ourselves in part or in whole. And I've heard from a number of Clarks who are in a work situation and they have a Roger, and Rogers make up a good percentage of middle management. And Clarks are at a total disadvantage with Rogers in that context. We don't fight them. We fall for it, and the problem with it is simply that when they get the upper hand, we will have a portion of ourselves say, oh man, maybe they're right. And if I've done nothing else, I'll be satisfied with the fact that I've had Clarks tell me that directly, that okay, it isn't me, the guy was being an asshole, but that simple one-time event, that's worth the whole effort. Scotts, you look at Scotts and they're fun because they're aggressive, and and we're close to Scotts, so we get along with Scotts because we're aggressive when we're in the mood or when provoked, and we're not food like Rogers are. So we tend to be passive, but we're not submissive. So Scotts and Clarks have a dynamic that is unlike the dynamic between Scotts and Rogers, Clarks and Rogers. So there's the advantage of when you're out and you're trying to make some girl, as the Rolling Stone said, damn, I didn't do the line right. When you're traveling around this world, I think is the lead in line. Anyway, socially, if you know who you're dealing with, I do say you know more about the person. To modify the standard expression is you'll know more about the person than they know about themselves. Okay, I'll stand behind that, but what I definitely will stand behind is you will know more about that person than you have any right to know. With a casual, new acquaintance, casual acquaintance, big time. You'll simply know stuff. And
so you think the course will be able to predict other people's behaviors?
All the fucking time.
Yeah.
No. It's funny because I feel I'm hearing myself answer the questions, and I'm noticing the non-uncertainty on certain parts about the doctrine that are coming across even as, huh? What's that?
I totally missed that. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No. There's no doubt about some things about the doctrine. There's zero question in my mind. Predicting behavior, knowing the person, and there's the other value is whether or not. Now we'll put the standard disclaimer on it. All of these things that I'm describing are the values to a Clarke for the doctrine. The values to a Scott and a Roger will be slightly different. They'll still come down to the same thing, an advantage. A Scott will call it an advantage. A Roger may call it greater insight, A Clark will call it knowing more about the situation, each according to their worldview. But for whatever reasons that I'll never understand, this cluster of characteristics and qualities that we associate with Clarks and Scotts and Rogers seem to hold up. I mean,
I guess one thing I found really shocking about my buying into the doctrine, and I don't mean to make it sound that way, I just don't know how else to word it because I didn't prepare like a good Clark wouldn't. And, you know, the thing that I have found most shocking about it is that it does really only have 3 profiles.
Yeah.
And we look at the human animal and think, how complicated, you know?
Yeah.
But certainly 3 profiles has, you know, I mean, there's definitely complications in between all of those. You know what I mean? There are definitely finer points within all 3.
Yep.
But I'm just amazed at, even at my willingness to accept that, okay, you know what, this guy might be onto something.
Well, what the hell?
You know? I mean, do you get a lot of that, or am I just like a doubting Thomas?
No, that's the, no, we don't get that much of it, but I welcome it. I get it from people, Clarks with secondary Rogerian aspects. Believe it or not, that's consistent.
Are you just saying that?
Nope, that's consistent. In fact, that's one of the ways I can recognize a Clark with a secondary Rogerian aspect. There's a challenging to it, and it's not bad. And I'll go on the record once again to say there's none of these 3 are bad worldviews or bad qualities, etc.
Yeah, despite that being constantly degraded.
Yeah, really, huh? Big time.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think for the idea of, well, Jesus, only 3 worldviews, I'm amazed at how much totally unrehearsed Rogers and Scotts and Clarks act like they're supposed to act. I mean, when I see them out there, it's like, Jesus, did you get to the blog first or what? I mean, they do act like predators. They do act like herd members, and I think that maybe the key genius to this that is inherent in the whole thing is that it deals with, as we say, how the person relates themselves to the world and around them. And I don't know if I'm unnecessarily overemphasizing that difference between the more common statement, hey, how do you relate to the world, man? And, hey, how do you relate yourself to the world? To me, it's a huge difference between those 2 statements.
What's the difference?
The difference is how you relate to the world treats you as sort of a monolithic, correct, internally consistent force, personality type, and the world as the objective thing out there. How do you relate yourself to the world implies the self-awareness of who you think you are, and the world, and God knows what they think you are. But it introduced the relationship thing. Clarks don't just act like outsiders, they relate to the world. They feel that they are, and they are in fact, outsiders. So it's the relationship, it's not the behavior, it's not the traits, it's not even the preferences. You know, a Clark and a Scott and a Roger walk up into a person at a counter, and how do they act differently? It's not about their choices and the things we do, it's how we feel about that thing. We deal with that with the statement about everyone does everything at one time or another, because despite we having 3 groups, we're still saying that even that is 3 too many, because it's everybody does everything. So it's not about Scotian hobbies, it's not about Rogerian occupations, it's about how does a Roger relate to being a carpenter? How does a Scott do it? And you can identify the 3 by knowing the characteristics of the worldviews. You can see it, and you can predict their work. You know, all things being equal, we're dealing with probability here, but you'll see finished carpenters tend to be Rogers. You'll see foremen and general contractors and rough contractors being Scots, and you'll see clerks slowly picking up the scrap wood on the floor and just generally trying to be helpful and not noticed, because of how they relate. How and we use the term manifest. That's how carpentry manifests to a herd member. And now I want to stop going on because I'll go on for hours about that whole business of the manifesting. Rogers says, "Oh, carpentry. Now, how does that relate to him?" Well, in his world, things are quantifiable. They're consistent. And there's a abstract higher good inherent in almost everything, and the Rogers task is to discover and demonstrate that. So if you're going to be a carpenter, you're probably not going to bend a few nails and then hurry on to the next job and spend your time roughhousing with the help. You're going to stand there and sand that thing until it's like glass, because this is the expression of the higher order of carpentry, perfectionism.
So how each of these sort of things, relate to the world? It's basically you're looking at their goal from any situation. Yeah.
Say that again.
Well, in saying that each relates to the world in a specific way.
Yeah.
Right.
Relates themselves to the world in a specific way.
Relates themselves to the world in a specific way, then basically, I don't know. I guess I've had a hard time seeing that.
Yeah.
Is that a secondary Roger thing that I asked too many questions?
No, it's not.
But here's the thing: is I often have to, because I find that the other people that we talk to, you and I.
Yeah.
Who are kind of the second generation of understanding the doctrine, I find that they tend to catch on to how to use it a little bit faster than I have been able to, I feel like. And so what I've had to do kind of in my own understanding is to look at, well, then what would the personal goals of a Roger or a Scott or a Clark be? And that's how I
okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, yeah, I could see your own professional training dealing with the individuals. We will say actually the contrary. The doctrine doesn't really overly care about individuals.
No, and I don't think it's an individual thing, because if you take that example that you just gave of everybody who's working at the construction site.
Yep.
And the Clark is the one kind of just cleaning up, trying to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
The Roger is going for precision, and the Scott is there telling everybody what to do.
Yep.
Then you can put those three into any situation and make that goal the same thing.
Well, I don't know how the word goal comes into it, but yes, we use physicians a lot. You can talk about physicians. So Rogers will be the I lost the term for what's the specialty? Oncologist. A Roger will probably be found to be an oncologist. Scott will be a surgeon, and a Clark will be a GP.
And so I'm goal as outcome.
No, I think that now we say that they don't go to a certain job, but their strengths lie in take them there. So the good surgeons will be Scots, for the most part, because. And I'm not a surgeon. I don't know why I seem to have to explain that. I don't think anybody suspects me of being a surgeon, but the kind of aggressiveness, certainty, all of the Scotian qualities serve a surgeon better than it serves a oncologist, who my understanding of those guys is that they deal with the numbers and the research and the stats. A Scott wouldn't last 5 seconds as an oncologist. A Roger, oh damn, look at that. Look at these the quantifiable universe. That it's a natural fit. So the strengths of the Rogerian worldview match one specialty as opposed over the other. Now, of course, we, just as a disclaimer, everybody does everything. So there are Scotian GPs, as there are Clark Surgeons and